One, in an attempt to keep us to schedule and on time, we're going to get kicked off. I'm very excited to be leading our third workshop on publishing platforms and services for Diamond Open Access. My name is Ashley Farley. I'm a senior officer for knowledge research services at the Gates Foundation, and I will be leading this workshop session this afternoon. Yes, yes, yeah. Am I able to, or just want me to say next? Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, so this is going to be probably a flexible session and see how much engagement we have. We have a great lineup of speakers for you to listen to and learn from. We're going to cover a quick objective overview, some of the themes we want to explore, speaker introductions. We may or may not have a quick panel discussion on a certain question, or we really want to make sure there's some time for breakout discussions. I think that was really successful in the earlier sessions to give everyone an opportunity to engage. We have some great questions for that. So with that, here's kind of our workshop objectives. The Diamond Open Access is not just a publishing model, it's a commitment to community governance, shared infrastructure, and equitable participation in knowledge creation. And this workshop foregrounds repositories and preprints as a structural backbone in achieving Diamond Open Access, enabling openness without APCs and shifting control away from commercial actors. And I hope we kind of take this message throughout the rest of the week. And I know that we're having a lot of great discussions and engagement around like what does diamond really mean? What do these terms mean? And I hope we can continue that discussion in this session. With that, here are some of the themes we hope to explore today. We want to be able to understand how repositories and preprint platforms function as Diamond OA infrastructure. We want to explore how regional, disciplinary, and community-led models can work together. We want to identify practical governance, sustainability, and equity challenges. I think we focused a lot on the challenges and tried to find solutions in a previous workshop. And again, really trying to have this workshop have a focus of how do we leave with actionable ideas to strengthen the repository and preprint ecosystems and work more closely together. So here are our lists of the panelists and speakers for today. We're going to have each one come up and introduce themselves and have about 10 minutes to give an overview of their work in this space, and then we will take it from there. And first, I'm excited to introduce Katie Corker, who's the Executive Director of ASAP Bio, who we should give a big round of applause for joining us virtually in the middle of the night. So I'm very glad that she's able to join. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Shall I go ahead?
Yes, I am having trouble advancing the slides though. Oh, because I think.
It's hard to
Great.
do these things since I see Ashley on the podium. I don't see anyone else, so it's hard to know exactly what's going on.
Oh, there's a massive audience here who's so excited to hear from you. So take it ahead and let us know. Let me know when you want me to switch the slides.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Great. So I wanted to say a little bit about kind of the intersection between preprints and open repositories and the Diamond OA movement. And I'll, by way of doing that, introduce a little bit about ASAP Bio as an organization and what we're trying to do. Um, so I have my very brief talk here has three major claims. 2 different preprint servers on our list. Greater than 3/4 of them are backed by a nonprofit, are hosted by a nonprofit. 40% are hosted on open source technology, so it's not quite as strong as the OA repositories, but still many of these servers are hosted on open source platforms. And greater than 3/4 of them involve researchers in their governance. So that means that researchers are having a strong say in the direction of the publishing platform. They're, again, like open repositories and Diamond OA journals, they're publishing at no cost to authors or readers. And 39% of the servers in our list are publishing in languages beyond English. So that could be a single local language, but it could also be that they accept papers in any language that's submitted to them. Next slide. So an open question is how peer review sort of fits into this model, preprinting. Preprints and open repositories are not necessarily publishing peer-reviewed outputs, but there is an emerging model that is receiving wider adoption more recently. Actually not that new of a model. It's been going on for about 20 years in the geosciences and in other disciplines, but it's gaining steam more recently in the life sciences with eLife and other outlets. This model is called the Publish, Review, Curate model. So for the purposes of distinguishing the two models, I want to explain that Diamond OA is a business model. Of course, it's not just a business model for the reasons that Ashley explained. It involves, the Diamond OA involves strategies and techniques in the governance that boost researcher control, access and equity, and so on. So beyond that business model, there's an additional ethos or value system there. But many Diamond OA journals operate with a traditional publishing model, meaning that research is reviewed prior to being published. What the Publish, Review, Curate model can offer
Thank you. That was a fantastic setup for the rest of our discussion. I really appreciate you joining us. And moving ahead, I'm going to welcome up Carolina Taniguchi, who's coordinator of Cielo Preprints.
Thank you for having me. I think I should, hopefully you can hear me all right. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Carolina Taniguchi. I'm really happy to be representing Cielo Preprints today. Okay, so, the animation isn't working. Oh no. Okay, so behind this picture, because it was supposed to show up only when I pressed the next slide button, but for some reason it isn't working. I'm sorry. There are some, this has some information on Cielo, generally speaking. So Cielo is a research program with an open science focus that's reliable, that's implemented as a public policy. And it is publicly funded. Okay, Cielo is also a network that's comprised currently of 18 national collections, and we also have a preprints collection, which I'll be talking about today, a books collection, and a dataset collection. So, since 2023, we have been working with the idea of open science with IDEA, which means impact, diversity, equity, and accessibility. So this is something that we've made part into our publishing of our program. It's part of everything that we do now, and yes, it's a really important thing for us. And we have a publication model which works a bit like a franchise, so to speak. So each national collection operates independently from Cielo Brazil, which is the original, and we make sure that our national collections, they're operating following our standards, but they are completely independent. So it is decentralized, and it has a focus on national priorities as a principle. It's also not for profit. Not all the journals in our collection are Diamond Open Access. Some do charge APCs, but that's only so they can continue publishing, and they're not generating any profits from it. We also have an ethics office that was implemented last year that they will look through any reports of possible violations in both the articles or preprints or anything else that's published within the Cielo umbrella. Okay, so the next slide will show us what's kind of where we're going with our preprints. So the idea is that preprints will be the start of the publication workflow. So we'll have preprints and then the data sets attached to these preprints. And then once that's published in a Cielo journal, we'll keep track. We'll also have the data sets, and everything will be connected. And the idea, that's something that we're still working with. And the main challenge that we're currently facing is that it's still a bit hard to keep track of everything and to make sure everything is within the same record. So this is something that we're working on. Cielo Preprints we started operating on April 2020 because of the pandemic, and we've been working for it's been ongoing for 5 years, almost 6 years now, and we run an OPS, which is Open Preprint Systems, which is a system that we developed with PKP, based on OJS, and this partnership has been ongoing for a lot of time. All this time, and it's been going good. Okay. Sorry. So why preprints? Because as I previously said, preprints are supposed to be the start of the publication workflow. And in this case, preprints, they are equitable because they allow they're free for both authors and readers. They're citable and discoverable. They promote open practices, so not just the preprint itself, but also we allow for we have the Cielo data collection, which in Cielo preprints is integrated with Cielo data, and authors, when they're submitting their preprints, they can submit their data sets as well, and we can make sure that everything is within the same ecosystem and everything is linked together. Okay, preprints are also compatible with journals, and they help increase transparency. There's also a shared responsibility. there's also a shared responsibility between all parties involved, so between the server, the authors, and the people who are sharing this research on a preprint server. So we're talking not just readers, not just researchers, but also journalists and other people doing science communication. Okay, so we also work on we're also dealing with moderation and transparency. And moderation happens in Cielo Preprints. It has 3 levels. So first, all submissions that come through Cielo Preprints, they go through at least 1 level of moderation. So the first level is the format moderation, which we'll make sure that authors have put in all declarations that we require. So we ask for data availability. We ask them to inform us data availability. Also, author contribution has to be informed. We ask all authors to have an ORCID profile. Hopefully they'll have all their information listed in the ORCID profile, so we can do the next step of the moderation, which is the author history, where we'll look at all authors' history informed in their ORCID profile and make sure that they have enough publication that we can publish that preprint, knowing that they're researchers with a good background. Finally, if the authors don't have a lot of previous publications to justify publication, then we'll ask the moderation of a Cielo editor in the area of knowledge. And this is really important because, they are able to tell us whether that preprint has the potential to be published or not. So the requirements that we ask them to look at is that if this preprint was submitted to their journal, would it go through peer review or would it be rejected at desk review? Okay, so because the animation isn't working, yeah. So now we are talking a little bit about open preprint review. So there are 3 options here, okay? So we have endorsement via Plotted, and that can happen before or after publication. When it happens before the publication, we use it also to help with the background check for the author. So if they have a researcher that's willing to endorse their work, then we can understand that that's good research, and that's, yeah. Other than that, post-preprint posting, we also have PDF annotation via hypothesis. We also, and preprint review via peer review, which I'll be talking a little bit about next. And finally, we also have a preprint highlights via prelights prelist, which is still in construction, but it's already on their site. Okay, so a little bit about pre-review. Pre-review works as a plugin that's on OPS, and it integrates OPS and pre-review. So authors can, when they're submitting their article, they can check a little box that says they want their preprint to be reviewed on pre-review, and this is what they look like this is what they see when they're submitting. Okay, and this is what it looks like from the pre-review platform, and yeah, you can find the image behind was just their platform and the list, and this is what authors see when they select a preprint to review. Okay, and this is what it looks like on the Cielo Preprints platform. So on the landing page for the preprint, you will find a little box there that says whether that preprint has received any reviews via pre-review. Finally, the future is open. So preprints have some pros and cons, and some things that we're still working on. So the pros are that authors have more autonomy. They have and we can see an increase in community participation and transparency. Also, preprints also help transition journals into open science, where journals will take also will not just work as invalidating the research that they publish, but they also they also validate how open the research is. So we've had some journals be concerned that preprints would be the end of journals, and that's not the case at all. Preprints and journals are supposed to be friends. So preprints are the beginning of the publication workflow, and journals will work alongside with that. So one helps the other, one validates the other. Preprints make posting faster. They make they help make the process a little bit faster because you don't have to go through peer review before publishing. And then you can also keep track of the versions of the preprint. So if your preprint got submitted to a journal and then they ask for a review, you can publish that review. You can update that on the preprint record when you send that review to the journal, and so on and so forth. And you can see all the different versions until the version of record is published in the journal. And then you have that also linked in the preprint. Okay, so on the cons, we're still kind of figuring out versioning. We want to make sure that our main goal right now is to make sure that everything is listed under the same record. So we want to have the preprints there, and we want to have the data sets related to this preprint on there. They're listed, there's a DOI, everything's connected, and then we want to make sure that all the versions are also in the same record, and then finally the version of record is also in that record. So we can have one big record, everything in it, and that's still something that we're working on. Preprint sharing still needs some guidelines. So as I said previously, it's a shared responsibility. So people, readers, or other researchers and science communicators, they need to make sure that they're sharing preprints responsibly. Finally, funding agencies still need to work a little bit on supporting and incentivizing preprint posting. And we also need to account for different areas of knowledge. So not all areas of knowledge are the same, and some areas of knowledge will have a little bit more resistance than others. And that's still something that we need to make sure that is that's accounted for. And yeah, so the guidelines that we're currently kind of working on, this is mainly used for data sets, but it kind of also works in this regard, is that we want things to be as open as possible, as closed as necessary. And that was it. Apologies for the little technical issues and the and the stuttering. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to keep moving ahead. Next, I'm going to welcome up Joanna Haveman, who's trainer and consultant fostering global research equity through open science practices and has been a long time open access advocate. So thank you.
Should I speak later and we'll update it, or Daniela? Setting the organizers with like literally, not even last minute preparations, like in the middle of everything preparations, I'm sorry. But I think we'll try and make the slides available, so whatever I'm talking about now, you will also have nice visuals to look at later. So yeah. So thanks for the introduction. And yeah, my name is Jo Haveman. Some people refer to me with Dr. Jo. I earned my PhD, it was sweat and tears, as those who've done the journey can relate. I run a consultancy now. It's called Access to Perspective since a couple of years, where I promote with a team that's of affiliates and collaborators from different parts of the world. So it's all about open science communication, the fusion of open science and science communication. And we are working towards globally inclusive research management and science communication, which is why we're all here. So I'm also here as a co-founder of Africa Archive, which is a continental. I always had imposter syndrome with the whole continental approach, also not being an African myself, but I was always making sure that I work closely with African partners, team members, and so on. So it's been a journey. You can poke me any questions. I'm my most difficult critic myself, so bring the questions. I kind of work through the answers. I want to remind us all of the Human Rights Declaration, Article 27. If you're not familiar with the thing, not even Article 1, which is basically what the nation states from across the world have agreed upon after the Second World War. And Article 27 makes a whole point about science engagement for every human being. We're not only talking citizens, we're talking human beings, which means also those who are refugees, also those who are not recognized as citizens in their own home countries, which is usually indigenous people, wherever you look in the world. So we're talking human beings. Every human being on this planet has a right to benefit and contribute to science advancements and science achievements. So in the interest of time, not reading them out to you, but with the slides you get the link and you can also just find it online. Of course, there's the UNESCO Open Science recommendation that I think most of us in the room are familiar with. It's also like ever since it was launched and now also being increasingly implemented, is like the perfect reference point because we have highest level commitments, nation states, governments, all the governments on this planet, the nation states have agreed that open science is the way forward. So let that sink in. It's something that I think, as much as the Human Rights Declaration, this is what the humans on this planet who are acting and also destroying much and also competing with each other, but we have agreed on the values and principles, which brought us all to this venue and this event. Now, Africa Archive, we launched in 2018 as a response to many of the disciplinary preprint repositories that the Open Science Foundation, the Center for Open Science with the Open Science Framework, the platform had facilitated and encouraged to be set up. And then there were already a franchise, like a Francophone research output community. There was already, there were some Indonesia in-archive, which now is RIN-archive, or the other way around, so for Indonesia. So, and then I was already engaged with African research advocates and practitioners, research community members of the wider scale. So we figured maybe you should have a preprint repository for a whole continent. Isn't that a bit too much to ask for? And also, again, as a European, how dare you? But here we are, 8 years later, or 9 by now. So now Africa Archive is institutionalized on the continent with an NREN membership organization. It's called Ubuntu Net Alliance. It's beautiful that they also have the name because Ubuntu is a Southern African philosophy. It means I am because we are. It's like the whole spirit of togetherness. Again, values, human rights, whatnot. So it's coming together nicely. And with Africa Archive, from the beginning, we made sure that it has to be inclusive of all the nations on the continent. It has to be multilingual. It has to be multidisciplinary, obviously. And that's quite a challenge to tackle and cater for, as many in the room know. But we're here to make it all work. We are now also just as much as La Referencia, we're lucky to be one of the 2 recipients currently of the Invest in Open Infrastructure funding scheme. So for the next 3 years, we are going to implement NREN, so national level facilitated digital infrastructure setup, and capacity building and training and community of practice. So capacity building is not one way, but it's we all learn together because the local and regional actors, they know best their own challenges. And it's not the same in one country or one institution from another. It's all specific and different. So we need everybody's brain in the room to be contributing to what we're trying to achieve here together. So with that, we have chosen for now for DSpace as an infrastructure for literature and other types of research output repository, and also Dataverse for a dedicated data repository, because data is the currency of research. Currency is a without the bad labeling to it, but it's like the heartbeat. I mean, the research is the data and vice versa. So whereas the literature is also important, it's the narrative, and we cannot have one without the other. But data, as many of us, again, are very much aware, have been neglected painfully in the publishing ecosystem. So we are bringing, many of us are bringing data to the center of attention. We do have a webinar series, which I would very much for you to explore on the website. So if you go to africaarchive.org, we'll take you to info-africaarchive.ubuntunet.net. And then you find a tab for Open Science Webinar Series. Ashley was featured, introducing the Gates Foundation's open access policy, which is the first of its kind to demand preprint first as a publication record, and then everything else later, in order to cater for the community, because we do the research. Like, if we remind ourselves, what do we do with the research? And the research is not, I have to publish to advance my career. No, we have to serve societies. We have to serve the environment. We have to save this very planet we keep destroying. So we have a purpose and a mission to fulfill. And again, it's great that we are here, so let's make that happen, and let's enable the researchers to be reminded of why they signed up for research in the first place, because they are being forced currently to forget about why they do their work. And that's very sad. And they also feel very sad. And there's actual evidence that many of them run into mental health issues because of that. Because they want to serve, and then they have to provide numbers. Okay, I think in the interest of time, so my most important thing, nobody's doing this alone. We are all here to advocate and present the work, the beautiful work each of us is doing, but we can only achieve something great, and we are in the middle of achieving something great. We are already on a great journey, and we have achieved a lot already together. So the whole the panel here, and many others also, in this conference and others, is to connect the dots, to see how we feed into each other, how we partner, to present the overlaps of our works, and then to make a whole system functional, again, for the researcher community, which we are also part of. We are providing infrastructure, we're providing services for the research to do the research work, and then to serve society. So I think time is up. Thank you.
Expertly done, even without slides. I appreciate that. Okay, I am very excited to introduce A.R.D. Parasad, professor at DRTC, the Indian Statistical Institute. And I think we'll be, doing a slide deck change, so come on up.
Yeah, greetings to all. Firstly, I am quite impressed by my earlier presenters, and I will be talking from a different perspective. My emphasis is if you want to accelerate the open access movement or diamond open access movement, probably we should also emphasize on open services. Unless we build open services around open access repositories or preprint repositories, I think it can accelerate if we build some services around it. There have been some services, but again, they should be universally adopted. That is the burden of my song in this presentation. But again, some of my views are quite aggressive for moderates, and for aggressive people, there maybe my views are very moderate. Okay, so I tend to, I think, go a little overboard. Okay, okay, this forget it. Okay, agenda, I will be talking about Indian scenario and some musings on peer reviewing, because peer reviewing is one of the claims the commercial guys claim. We have the flesh of peer reviewing, as if open access journals are not at all peer reviewed. This is another thing. And of course, I am telling open sources this one. So the Indian scenario is there is India Archive. Okay, this is managed by, I think, both the archives are managed by Dr. Sridhar Gautam, but again, we have to do a long way to promote it. Or probably, as it is an individual effort, still it has to catch up with the imagination of the people. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Then, then we know that, of course, I have done a lot of efforts in promoting DSpace software because I was one of the first governance board advisory members of DSpace. And we conducted, I think, more than 50 workshops across India and the world. And India, of course, definitely many librarians took a lot of interest and established. But again, like the India Archive and other things, if they don't have financial funding and the institutional support, ROR, somebody did a survey on the ROR, half of them don't work. Okay, this is one of the greatest problems because they don't have constant support, rather maintenance, governance, and all that was missing. Okay, the next is, in India, many people attempted ETD repositories. In fact, some of them are heavily funded to the extent of 20 million rupees, but again failed. But when UGC mandated all the universities should submit their thesis, overnight, I think this is perhaps the largest ETD repository in the world with full text. NDLTD is there, but only metadata is available, but not full text of the thesis. Then, does peer reviewing promise quality? This is the biggest claim. The commercial guys try to be on the tide and claim that they are the best. But I have been advocating for a long time. There are pitfalls in peer reviewing. Okay, some editors reject. Okay, without sending it to the paper to this one. I know one of my colleagues when he was in Austria. Done? My time is up, or okay, okay. I know one of my colleagues in economics, when he was in Austria, he got good publications. But when he came to India and did better work, I think always the papers were rejected. Okay, this kind of biases, gender biases, country, all kinds of biases would be there. Okay, and many people, what I advocate here is if you have open peer review servers, the advantage is if you add comments by anybody else. For example, DSpace doesn't have right now, but I am trying to convince the committer group that why don't we add. Okay, they are more towards Chris' side. Anyhow, leaving that. But if we add reviews, which are moderated, of course, there should not be aggressive tones. And that I think, see, the so-called peer reviewers, just because they are sitting on the other side of the table, they exhibit ignorance rather shamelessly. Okay, I am sorry for the words immediately I did not get. That is, but again, more reviews from, I always say, an author should put his preprint on various preprint servers so that more reviews come and more quality is ensured. That way you can beat the so-called commercial journals peer reviewers. All reviewers are not experts, remember that. Okay, but they can talk. That is the advantage they have. Okay, and definitely less plagiarism, less retraction. You know, one of the universities in India had 16,000 publications in a year. Okay, and finally found this would not have happened if it is open peer review by many people. In fact, we can prove probably down the lane within 2-3 years that peer-reviewed articles from open preprint repositories have better quality than any commercial journal. Okay, after all, it took a long time for the commercial journals to establish some kind of credibility. But usually I tell, actually many people have a belief that commercial journal means it is better quality. Open access journal means, I always say it is the reviewers that make the journal's quality practically better, not this commercial or open access. That has been my argument. Okay. Then some dark sides of citation studies. Of late, of course, I belong to Indian Statistical Institute without knowing basics of statistics because I am a library science person. But my job is to pull their leg, saying that statistics has this one quality ensures, quantity ensures quality, which is not the case. I am a staunch non-believer of IQ tests also, okay? Those are all somewhat shady, okay? So quality may not, there are, I ask always the bibliometricians, was there any study, you have article impact factor, author impact factor, and journal impact factor, okay? And I know that, oh, my predecessors emptied everything. Whether there is a correlation study. But again, in fact, I go to the extent of saying how much damage the citation studies have done to the scientific research. Because we know that sometimes the chief editor writes to the reviewer, no, the author did not quote not even a single article from our journal. Please write to him to quote at least 5 references to my journal. So that, so these impact factor statistics completely manipulated, okay, fraudulent to the extent. So all these, if you take into consideration how much damage it has done, okay, to science research, probably it has contributed to some extent, but it has also contributed, it also damaged some of the scientific research. Okay. So the problem is anything market driven, you have to take with suspicion. Okay. After all, we know in nutrition, pharmaceuticals, all these are, the research itself is a little suspicious. Okay. That's why even journal articles, if they are market driven, profit motive, then we need not take it for granted that it has good quality. Okay. Then how to the citation issues. Okay. We know that of course now many people are suggesting one of the problems with open preprint servers is which one to quote. Probably it was improved. Okay, that's why citation hygiene they talk about. Which one to give references, and whether finally when it comes as a open access journal, it appears in the journal before being preprint thoroughly reviewed by various people. Yeah, one of my friends told, both are friends, preprints and the open access journals. I say it is before becoming a butterfly, you have an ugly preprint, which would be polished definitely, okay, by various contributions from the rest of the world. Okay, some repositories mentioning versioning. Versioning is one of the biggest issues even in digital repositories. Okay, then how to, okay, so convincing the authors. So you can say that publish his article in any number of preprints. I know one UNESCO funded IIT Kharagpur organized an open access, and the person from IIT says, we don't accept any open access journal articles for promotion. Then I thought, how on earth he joined hands with UNESCO? Because I think both are different issues for him. Okay, fine, forget. More number of people would comment, that means article will be better and enhance the quality. Of course, wider open peer reviewing and lesser retraction, that I have already told. Okay, then open service. This one is how to build tech services around it. Open services. So usually, jokingly, I say I have open mantra, that is open access to information, open source software, open standards and protocols, and open services. I think recently I added open services also. The most, of course, there is an organization, ICOS, but again, I think it requires more teeth. Okay, it is important to develop promotional tools. How do we develop promotional tools for every open preprint repository or open access repositories in general. That is how to make a DSpace to have moderation of the comments, linking preprint publishing. This I think many people are doing, and journal recommender systems. Once I publish, in fact, often my research students say, this I worked, which is the more appropriate journal. So here we can add more appropriate open access journals. Okay, okay. A few more desirables. Of course, I know one of my students is working on providing AI-based research that is in natural language, rather than Boolean is I think only a cup of tea for a few, but AI-based natural language expression of and the query is much better. Okay, plagiarism testing tools, AI tools too. Okay, then should we build Scopus and Web of Science? I know one organization is doing in India how to elbow out Scopus out of the market, which is I think the greatest contribution to the movement. Okay, then statistics also should be displayed for every article that is submitted. Okay, how many read and how many quoted and all that, so that it would encourage the authors. Then, of course, nowadays, as a librarian, I know that BibFrame is a good cataloging system where linked open data are available. You can have link to the data, actual data from the data repositories, or other references to the same mentioned in the same article. Okay, so suggestions. We cannot overemphasize the open access services in the Diamond OA ecosystem. Then DOI is pricey because I never used DOI because for a long time CNRI was free. Now also peanuts, some $50 per annum, which is not a big deal. So how do we build, I encourage people to go for CNRI handle system. Actually both use the same software because I did tweaking for some Singapore National Library. Then can we convince the government to abolish transfer of copyright? See, copyright laws are acceptable. Transfer is the main crux of the problem. Then, for example, they can say that we funded your organization. You cannot give away the results to some private company to make profit out of it. Law to enforce organizations to consider articles published in open access journals as criteria for promotion, because that is the main thing. In spite of our tall claims, we all worried whether unless I have some Scopus index, impact factor journals and all that, probably my promotion may be in doldrums. Okay. Why I am saying that the Kerala government, which is the southernmost, this one, I know that they had a huge conference and convinced the government all schools in the Kerala should use only open source software. That means we cannot overlook the top-down approach, which is very important for the success of open access movement. I know that we are all enthusiasts and we are contributing our might to some extent, but top-down in India at least, that works better. Okay. So OA pressure groups, definitely APC is a result of our pressure groups. Okay. But only thing is we are not satisfied with APC. Then what would be the next step? Then do we expect I mean, always I give lofty statements. I want to see a world before I die without publishing in commercial publishing industry. Okay. That's why when I organize conferences, nobody sponsors me. Like I think this conference also nobody sponsored because on the very title it is against the publishing industry. Normally librarians get huge funding from the publishing industry to organize lavish conferences. Okay, so and I am sure I think if open reviewing and open preprints and all that, one day we may prove we have better quality articles than the so-called commercial journals. I said jocularly, diamonds are forever, okay, like a bond. That's it.
Thank you. I want to highlight that we made it halfway through the workshop before AI came up, so that's pretty stellar in this day and age. Next, I'm going to welcome up Daniela Sederi, Executive Director and co-founder of Pre-Review. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, and I think we should have the slide deck back up. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I have no voice, but I am thankful of amplification. Thank you so much. This was such a great setup for my presentation. Actually, I was trying to just keep it short, but I had to add a couple of slides after what I just heard. Here, I just was going to go through what are those problems that we see in peer review that makes it really inequitable and sustainable. And I don't want to read this aloud. We all pretty much have seen this, like, people, editors just complaining about the fact that there are not enough reviewers. I argue there are a lot of reviewers, but they're just not ignored and not engaged. That there is no diversity in the composition of editors, really hard to assess because the process is opaque, it lacks transparency. But from studies that we have that have opened up their data, it is mostly senior men in North America or Europe. And yet, these are called experts by editors, but yet they have not or rarely received any training. And there is also an overall lack of transparency and accountability of what, as a virtue of being opaque, there's a lack of accountability of the harm that peer review and some of these processes have actually done. That's not what is supposed to be after. There is like 3 slides between that and next. It's gone. Okay, well, we're missing some slides. The next was going to be a quote from a peer-reviewed paper that read, I can't remember the top of my head, but it is well known that Native Americans have a unique romance with alcohol and are therefore more prone to suicidal ideation. Okay, so there is a says, so the consensus of the scientific literature is that Native Americans have a unique romance with alcohol and conclude that as high as 95% drink alcohol with a very high rate linked to suicide ideation. This is one of many papers that just doing a little bit of research through peer-reviewed research was published. This is published in 2018 in the Journal of System Integrated Neuroscience. This research received government funding from the US. And the whole paper, this is just the introductory sentence. It goes on saying that there's, this unique romance and there's a genetic market for alcoholism in Native Americans. And that's why they drink more alcohol, completely ignoring the history of genocide that Native Americans have and continue to experience. And they go on saying that the solution to that is screening children for this gene. 2018. So the next slide was going to be that we keep thinking that science and scientific and scholarship is like immune from societal issues. Oh, those are political things, and we just do science, and it's like precise and truthful. But the truth is that science has not only evolved together with history of oppression, it has actually contributed and continues to actually contribute to oppressing groups of people. And peer review, quality control has not blocked that. That paper is available. You can go and read it. You don't see the citation, but why does it keep going ahead? So science is made of people, and people have inherent, if you want to call it, bias. And we bring them to everything that we do, including peer review. So anyway, this is 2 slides ahead. I'm the director of pre-review. I have a background in neuroscience, and I discovered preprints in a conference like this back in 2016, and I realized that preprints had a big value beyond just the access to science, but it also had an opportunity to open up feedback and to make the process of peer review less of a dreadful, like everybody kind of like, I dreaded peer review as a student, and more of like getting us back to why we got into science, which is what Joe was talking about. Most of us got into research, and not just science, but like knowledge discovery, because we want to build on each other. We want to advance, like quality of life for humans and plants and animals' life, hopefully, not exactly, but like I really believe that that's why a lot of us got there. And then we are not backed up by systems that actually allow to do that. Long story short, this pre-review is now a small organization, operates as a nonprofit. There are 5 of us now, and our mission is to bring more equity and openness to scholarly peer review. And we're really looking after a system change that can be achieved with everybody's. The three main things that we work on are training. So we really believe that it's not just about providing infrastructure and then people just will come, because where we are after is particularly understanding and representing the needs of communities that have been told you can't be, you're not an expert, you don't have the knowledge. And this includes beyond academia. We really believe that people with life experiences have a lot to say it should have more to say, more be valued for research input. And we build an open infrastructure. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that just for the discussion, so that anyone with an ORCID identifier can review preprints. And we are now connected with 31 preprint servers. We're not a preprint server ourselves. You need a DOI, and you can review a preprint publicly, or using a pseudonym, as I'm going to show you in a minute. And as of a couple of months ago, also data sets. And we engage community review, so we love to collaborate on review. Reviewing is such an isolating process, and we really believe that we can bring more joy to peer review if we can do it more together and help connect researchers from across the world. Jumping slides. There were 200 slides in there. Let's see. Okay. So one of the things that we really care about is that, again, it's saying like we want to open it up to everybody. It's not the solution, right? We're talking about a process that continues to say you're not an expert, you're an expert based on more proxies of prestige than actual knowledge. So we can't just build systems that are like you have to have your name, and it has open peer review means that everything should be open and transparent. We need to give also options to reviewers to publish reviews with pseudonyms, which is what pre-review accounts provide. So you create an account with your ORCID ID, you get a pseudonym, which is a unique pseudonym just to you. And you can decide to use that on a review basis. And you may say, okay, great, I'll use a pseudonym and review myself or review my friends and, violate it. We have conflict of interest statements and all of that, and trick the systems. Probably some people can do that. We have caught some of them, because what pseudonym do is that we can track things back to the ORCID ID. Is that we don't make it obvious to everybody else. It's kind of buried in our system. We have enforced a code of conduct, and we are creating a community of shared values that we can enforce, but at the same time also provide options. It's connected to ORCID record, so if you review on pre-review and you connect with your ORCID, your review activity will be connected automatically to your record. And now we're in a big phase of doing matchmaking, so really making sure that we have a ways to request reviews, as Carolina said, with Cielo Preprints, bioRxiv, medRxiv, preprints.org, and hopefully an increasing number of preprint server repositories, ways for authors to say, I actually need that feedback. And right now it's general, I just need feedback on anything. But we're really wanting to connect communities that would otherwise connect. So I need this kind of feedback, and this is a community that can provide it. And it's not, as easy of like, oh yeah, I got my paper reviewed because I use ferrets as animal models a lot, and the editors would just give it to ferret animal models researchers, completely neglecting that I was using Bayesian statistics. No Bayesian statistician reviewed my papers, and yet they're out there, probably wrong. All of the reviews receive DOIs and CC BY licenses that we issue on behalf of the authors. We work on the backend is Zenodo, so the reviews are published on Zenodo. The DOIs are connected to the reviews to the DOIs of the preprints, and so we try to really enrich the metadata so that these reviews can be discoverable as well. These are just some of the other organizations that we have integrations at different levels with. Core Notify is the big one that we're using to do these double way notifications with repositories where you request, and then there is a review, and then the notification goes back to the repository. And OpenAlex, we use it to index all of the preprint and try to do matchmaking in a more kind of in a way that it kind of matches tags or preprints, for a better word. Preprint peer review is growing. It's not super. This is just an outdated now. Or actually, sorry, this is an updated graph looking at the number of preprint reviews as captured by Society, which is not actually capturing every preprint server review services out there. And this is just from our annual report. The only reason why I'm showing it, it's that as of last year, we started doing a multilingual approach. We translated and localized all our review and workflows in Spanish, specifically Latin American Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese. Because of the big representation of Cielo, we get a lot of requests. And we've seen a huge spike of reviewers that actually just chose to review those preprints and review them in their own languages. So multilingualism and really just trying to like bring, build the features with the needs of the community in mind and to guide us as what we're trying to do, and we love to see that actually that how it works. Last things that I want to say, that the change that we were after, there is no way that pre-review can even contribute 1%. It's like a fraction of the fraction. It really does need a community effort, and it needs integration. And so if you want to talk about collaboration, please find me. Sorry, I took longer than I wanted.
Okay. We have our final speaker of today, Rafael Tornoy, Episciences Platform Manager at CCSD CNRS. Thank you. Yeah, that should be good.
Okay. Hi everyone. So Rafael Tournois from Episciences. Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about Episciences and overlay journals. So Episciences, what is it? It's a platform for publishing diamond open access journals. We rely on preprint servers and data repositories also to publish diamond open access journals. We're open to any disciplines, any country. We have journals from anywhere in the world. That's not a problem for us. Everyone is welcome. And actually, we act as a layer of services on top of existing open infrastructures. So the thing is that we provide essentially peer review and editorial services to the journal boards. This platform is academically owned and led and also funded. So, sorry, the slides are just a bit messed, but the thing is that with Episciences, what we actually handle is the certification for the peer review and also the dissemination. So it's kind of distributed responsibilities when it comes to if we make a difference with traditional journals. So for the part of registration and archiving, we do rely on data servers and preprint servers. So this is an overview of the workflow for Episciences overlay journals. The thing is that when you want to publish an overlay journal, you first have to submit your preprint online. So it could be also a software actually, and also data sets. So the first thing is to put online on the compatible repository. At the moment we support Archive, Alzinodo, and other repositories, but we would like to add more repositories in the future. We have special connections, for instance, with HAL, thanks to what is called Co-Notify. So with Co-Notify, you can, for instance, put your preprint online on HAL, and at the end of the submission process, you can just request a review from, for instance, overlay journals hosted by Episciences, or you can also request a review from PCI, Peer Community In, from HAL. It's a really two-in-one process. It's really easy to handle. And so it means that we support only single blind review or open preview, depending on the choices of the journals. So this is an example of a published article on open plasma science on overlay journals hosted by Episciences. On the top right, you can see all the versions that have been submitted to the preprint server on Archive. So you can see that you can track all the history of the article. So we have the first version, of course, the preprint that has been submitted to the journal. But then you have also the seventh version is the published version. So it means that the version of record is also available on Archive. But it also means that if you want to submit another version later, you can go beyond the version of record and update it. On the bottom right is the layouted version of the published article. And if you go on the web page of the journal, you can access everything in one place, but it's quite transparent from the point of view of the users. This is another example that we would like to experiment, is publishing data journals. So for this journal, which is called Jodakis, you can submit data sets. So the creation of the data set is provided by the Darius University of Stuttgart. And then it is also possible to submit a data paper to have a comment or presentation of the data set. So this data paper is actually reviewed by Episciences. And it is, for instance, hosted on HAL. So we can provide hosting by any repository, but this is just an example of a different kind of publishing model. So this is also an overview of what we can do with Episciences. We would like to make it easy for researchers to connect all the different artifacts of published article. So for instance, on the left, you have an article published by a journal, LMCS. You can have a software linked to the published article hosted by Software Heritage, which is a really good initiative to preserve software. You can also create easily a link with a dataset hosted by any Dataverse repository. If you want to also link and publish your open peer review, it's quite easy. You can just post it on HAL and create a relationship with the article on Episciences. And of course, you have the preprint version. All the preprint version can be tracked together and be available on archive. And we also create automatically connections, for instance, with ZBMat Open. ZBMat Open is providing reviews of published articles, so reviews that happen after the publication. So we have, you're using APIs to automatically retrieve all this information and add it to the published articles. So we are also connected with many other services. For instance, we use OpenLX to retrieve citations and also enrich our metadata. We also use the OpenAgraph for this purpose. Of course, we have connected with preprint server. We're also using Open Citations. So what I mean is that we can leverage many open infrastructures, create new published artifacts, also available for open science. In the future, we would like to connect more with we have some other repositories that we'd like to connect this year, for instance, with Baobab, hosting the African continental provided by WACREN. Also, for instance, with Digital CSIC, national repository in Spain, and repository of the University of Minho in Portugal. The thing is that we would like to have a more decentralized publication system. So it means that if you want to publish in another journals, it's quite easy. The goal is to make it easy to pick a repository near you, for instance, near your institution. So it's also a way to increase digital sovereignty and to distribute the load of publishing and also the burden of hosting the content, especially also for data sets. So some key takeaways. I think that overlay journals are part of a way to quickly disseminate research and published information. You can also actually use preprints as a way to start the discussion and citing your publications. I believe also that it increases transparency because you can see all the history of the published and the submitted versions on the repositories. It's the same for the data sets. We also think that it's quite cost efficient. Of course, there are costs, but they are distributed. And also, I think it is a way to ensure distribute the load of digital sovereignty. With this system and our PRC system, what is also interesting is that authors and journals are retaining their rights thanks to the Creative Commons licenses. For instance, with Episciences, we are now the owners of the journals. So the authors retain their rights and the journals also retain their rights. If they want to move on from Episciences, it's quite easy also. And this system is also compliant with open access mandates because first you have to submit your preprint online. So anyway, it will be available for everyone. And the last thing that I would like to add, is that we have quite a lot of technical features and protocols now to make it easy to connect infrastructures and with and journals with peer review services with preprint servers and data servers. So maybe, for instance, we could imagine connecting the Episciences with peer review or with CLO preprints. So it could be a nice opportunity to do this, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we please get another round of applause for all of our panelists, please? Thank you. Great. Okay, we are going to spend about 30 minutes in some breakout groups. I'm excited to see how many people are in the room. So earlier what we kind of did is each row of tables kind of came together as one group. So we'd have 3 main groups here, and then I will join the group online. We'll have about 30 minutes in our breakout sessions, and we'll do a quick report out afterwards. So also be thinking about who would like to lead in that report back. But we've outlined some scenarios for you, so you could pick 1 or 2 that interest you most, or just it's really meant to start getting a conversation going around everything that we've heard so far in the various workshops and presentations today. So if there's a national repository that wants to support diamond journals or preprints, where should they start? If a global South research community wants, visibility but without APCs, what infrastructure choices matter most? If a funder wants to support diamond open access repositories, how do they do this? Or how can a community peer review be sustainably embedded into repositories or preprint servers? And really, we just try to think about all the different perspectives that you guys are bringing and the work that you're doing. So pick a couple topics that resonate with your group. And really, to share back with the group, we're trying to capture 1 challenge, 1 promising practice and opportunity, and 1 resolved question that you'd like to maybe get answered this week. Go forth. We'll report back in 30 minutes. And if we can leave that slide up, that'd be great. Thank you. Panelists up to the front. The organizers would like to recognize your contribution, and then after that we will wrap up and we can do a report back. So panelists, please come up to the front.
Discussion. So on behalf of organizers, we would like to appreciate our convener and the speakers over here. May I request all the speakers, all are here? Yeah. 1 second. I request Dr. Sridhar to... Sridhar, 1 more here. Yeah, here, for him. Yeah, hello. Yeah, ladies.
One or 2 more minutes to finalize your discussions, and then we will have a quick report out before we then break for the day and get coffee and then soon dinner.
All right. So we discussed visibility. We didn't really follow the script there, but we did discuss some opportunities that we might have to increase visibility and some challenges. So something that is has been really useful is national repositories or aggregators. So that helps increase visibility within the community. Also, building researcher communities. That's also something that was brought up, and someone mentioned that it's really research is really journal focused, and it's hard to build networks between researchers, and so that's something that we should work on if we want to improve visibility of our articles and everything that we are publishing. So we also talked about initiatives such as DOAJ, Open Alex, and Dimensions as a way to increase visibility, and ways that funders can enforce and incentivize this, incentivize practices that will increase that. Okay, so a little bit going back on the researcher community things. So we want to network focus, so by area of knowledge. So instead of focusing regionally, we want to a suggestion is that we want to build a network of researchers around the world within areas of knowledge, and incentivize preprint reviews and building communities in that regard, so that can increase visibility of research published. And part of that is having preprint focused communities, and some areas of knowledge will have that, where we have really strong communities such as physics or economics, and not focus on initiatives that have commercial interests. Some of the challenges that a challenge that was brought up is also the language barrier. So we'll have, in most countries in the world do not speak English, and they'll publish research in languages other than English. And just the fact that, say, in Portuguese, there's a lot of research published in Cielo that's in Portuguese, and that's not necessarily being read by English-speaking researchers across the world. And, it's not bad to publish in Portuguese. That's not something that we want to de-incentivize, obviously, but it is something that makes access a little bit harder. I think that also the other way around is true. Not all researchers in Brazil speak English, and that makes it so that they can't read or access research published in English. And I think that's it. Okay.
Thank you so much, Carolina. All right, middle back table. Who's your representative? Joe, perfect. Come on up. Thank you.
Our question was, can you hear me? Yeah. A Global South Research Committee wants visibility without APCs. What infrastructure choices matter most? Obviously the ones that we presented in the beginning. So I'll get back to that. So questions that came up was like context. Which research community are we talking about? Is it only researchers or also librarians? So all these kinds of, what makes a research community? And throughout the discussion there was either or, this or that, and then maybe all of them, because we are in this together, and one facilitates the other, while at the end of the day the researchers are who we, also mostly here in the room, are here to serve. But let's assume we're talking about the actual researchers. So they want to publish the research without having to pay APCs. Turns out, not all, but many small journal editorial boards have to charge APCs because they don't get any money from anywhere else. So what we sort of concluded, I don't know if we didn't discuss this much, but the budget items are set. And the question is, who pays for the service? And the service, which APCs are kind of, is the umbrella term too, is also a bit opaque. So usually it's the processing, the peer review, management, whatnot. You think, oh, peer review is free. It's like, no, it can be. It's actually part of your job description as a researcher, if you think about it, because you learn about cutting edge research that's not yet published. So what an opportunity. Second, you're being called as an expert. Of course, there's expectations, but I would try and claim that most researchers try and do the best they can as a reviewer. And of course, there's misuse and biases everywhere in the system. We're all biased. None of us is free of the same. And we're here to try and optimize and make it as good as can be. So APCs are sort of a necessity, or just let's understand what APCs actually entail and who's paying for the service and who's actually providing the service and at what extent. Because the reality is that oftentimes in small editorial boards, it's librarians who do all of that in their extra time besides work hours. They also have families to sustain, and all of that. So we're talking about small editorial boards. Sometimes you just have one editor, and that's the person who's also a librarian, and it's like, and that's it. And then you try to apply for a budget, and you have nothing. But you want to make sure that the researcher in your institute can actually publish the research, so you exhaust yourself. So that's also a reality we need to consider. So it's not about avoiding the price tag or kind of navigating around it. It's just like, if you don't have to pay PC, somebody else covers it for you, or the journal. And then, is that fair for small journals who don't have that luxury of already set budgets and sponsorships and whatnot? So it's complicated, but the thing is also with services like DOA, they make it very transparent of who's there, how much are they charging, is this still affordable? Yes, it's a journal, I know, it's actually at my institute. Why are they charging PCs in the first place? You can go talk to the people. They explain to you their difficulties. So then the community can make an informed decision. Do we have the budget to cover the APCs, which is in small editorial journals, not thousands and tens of thousands, no, in one case, Nature, certain journals charge actually tens of thousands or less. It's usually researchers in some countries is an annual salary, or at least a kind of quarter of a year salary. They have to pay to publish. And they say, why are you spending money? Because I have to, otherwise my career ends just here. So there's all these constraints. So it's not just to convince them, oh, it's so easy and it's cheap, it's free, just use Diamond Open Access Journals. No, there's so many things to consider, so it's not a straightforward answer. But now, what infrastructure choices matter most? I think, again, we didn't have enough time to discuss this in all details, but I think most of us have agreed that local and regional matters as much as international and global visibility, because the internet allows for global reach, while we also want to support local research for the local societies, like as in research serving societies, like we established earlier, but then also have global visibility, because SDGs hasn't been mentioned just now, until now very much, but like, yeah, so that's a whole topic of its own, but that's basically, again, what we do, what we're here to accomplish, to save this planet, serve societies, save the environments. And environments are very much local and regional. So I'm coming to a point here. So where was I going with this? So what infrastructure choices matter? Local, regional, and also global, whatever global means. But then you have a British is it British or American? Dutch? Danish, sorry. Just because you're British. No way. Yeah. Okay, so it gets all a bit confusing now with the international setup. But bottom line is, look at what's in your region, see how much you can support and use infrastructure in your local institution, in your regional infrastructure setup that's already provided for you, and then check how that is embedded in an international, globalized, academic, open source, primarily, but not necessarily exclusively, because we have closed source necessities and also facilitating actors in the ecosystem. So yeah, I think the important thing is make informed choices and see what works for you as a researcher, but also for why you do the research to achieve visibility. And then we also had a question, what visibility are we talking about? Again, regional, local, global, but it's usually a mix of both. And then it comes down to being able to have choices and to make informed decisions. Can I stop there?
Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, last group. Come on up and take us home.
Okay, so we did not follow instructions. And the first challenge or kind of issue that was brought up is that even, with preprints and these alternative models, there is still a big problem with the lack of training and guidelines. And I think that, so for reviewers, but also someone brought up guidelines for authors to how to put together like a manuscript. And I think that it is exactly by like experimenting these new ways that we can actually embed guidelines and trainings in the process of in these open workflows, right? And well, I have a dream, or really like processing, you know, and helping and guiding the reviewers. And this is not for students. Even the more senior reviewers, as Professor Harprasad said, the fact that someone has published 30 papers in a year doesn't make them good reviewers, right? And we know that. So that was a challenge, and I think the opportunity with these new models to embed more guidelines for reviewers. And another challenge that was brought up was the power abuse that happens a lot in reviewing. And I think through transparency, so like people, like reviewers that might reject research not because of the quality, but because they are like political opponents, that was brought up in some countries, or religious differences, with more transparent and open practices, that is hard to do, at least in a way that would block publication. So the opportunities, if we really succeed at decoupling publication from review, we have a better chance of having the research actually reach the light of day without being blocked for months and months because of reasons such as those that I brought up. There were another couple of issues that were like how preprints are still feared and not recognized as legitimate publication systems, and that is very real. Not just I think it's real across different countries. And I mean, recently gave a talk at Stanford, and that was the number one thing that was brought up. And so the fear of being scooped. So I think that those fears are real, and they are rooted in the fact that we have managed to establish a system that for ages, for centuries, told people that, or stole, and academia is based on extractivism, and these practices happen over and over. My argument is that preprints made also them more harder to happen because you can actually quantify that rather than, where scooping happens behind closed doors. But again, this is my own flavor to the discussion. Last but not least, I think I think that's it. The solutions to what is add more librarians to everything. Someone said that. Which I think that we should do that. And not one solution fits all. So like opportunities through these models to provide flexibility in what models work for different communities. Sorry I didn't represent everything that you all said, but did my best. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone so much for being engaged and coming to listen. I think we had an amazing first day of workshops, and I hope that this gives you a lot of things to think about as we go into the rest of the programming for the week and really aim to build out a roadmap for Diamond Open Access. There's coffee, I believe, right now for like 15 minutes, and then I hope to see everyone at the welcoming reception later this evening. Thank you. Workshop photo. Can everyone come up to the front? Maybe some people stand on the stage. And let's take a quick photo. Thank you.
So we can say something?
So long as you don't play.
That is going online also.
Okay, thank you.